Corsair's 4000e has been one of my favorite cases from over the last 5 years. So when Corsair announced they had a new version of the 4000e with a couple of very interesting tricks up its sleeve, starting at $95 US, it really piqued my interest. This, ladies and gents, is a brand new Corsair Frame 4000e, and it's a bit of a shapeshifter. Let's take a closer look. To get inside, you'll want to remove the TG side panel. There's two captive thumb screws on the back edge of the case, and you'll want to loosen those, and you kind of pop the panel out towards you, and then you can pull it back and then away from the case. To remove the rear panel, it's exactly the same deal. There's two captive thumb screws. You want to loosen up both of those captive thumb screws, and then you want to lift it away from the case. Yep, I said the thing. To remove the top panel, there are two more captive thumb screws. This one can be a little bit trickier, but give it some time. You want to pull on that little handle, and then it'll just pop back, and then you can lift that panel up and away from the case. To remove the PSU shroud side cover, there's another captive thumb screw. You want to loosen that, and then you slide it back, and then you can lift that away from the case. The front panel has little hooks. Basically, you want to put your fingers around the edge of the front panel, and then you can pop that panel and then lift it away from the case. Going back to the side panel, there's a magnetic dust filter on that side panel, as well as a magnetic dust filter on the front of the case. You can basically just lift that from the bottom, and it's a very fine mesh and should be fairly easy to clean. On the side PSU shroud though, this is not a dust filter. This is a bit of plastic used to block the airflow and to help hide anything behind it. For power supply support, it supports a maximum length of up to 220 millimeters in total. However, to screw in the power supply, it has two included captive thumb screws, so you don't need to use any screws. Two is usually enough. For storage, you can do 4 2.5-inch drives or two 2.5-inch drives and a single 3.5-inch drive on two removable drive sleds. There's one on the back of the motherboard tray, and there's one in the basement as well, which is identical. Interestingly enough, it has a little cutout for a Corsair Link controller, which is the perfect size to fit the controller in there. And because those controllers are magnetic, this stops the Link controller from sliding around. There are three included fans in this case. They are 120mm addressable RGB fans. These fans don't use any proprietary connectors. They are daisy chainable. They're all PWM fans and use a 3-pin 5V addressable RGB connector. Cable managing in the Frame 4000e should be relatively easy. There's lots of Velcro tie downs included in the case, and there's lots of tie downs on the back of the motherboard tray. There's also little tie downs to help with any cables running at the back of the case, and the Frame 4000e also has external cable management, so you can run the cables in a single trunk down the back of your case. As well as that, you'll notice there's plenty of cable pass-throughs, and because this supports back-connected motherboards, it should be very easy to build with. Here's where the Frame 4000e gets really interesting. Up front, you can do 3 120mm fans, 2 140mm fans, or 2 200mm fans with this InfiniRail system. And the way this system works is there are adjustable offsets, so you can slide the rails left or right depending on the offset you want. And there's also these little standoff pieces that can be completely removed to extend the fan compatibility up the front. This means, as mentioned, you can do up to 200mm fans up the front. At the top, the setup is quite similar. It's on another InfiniRail, which you can slide to either a 120mm fan position or a 140mm fan position. You can do up to 3 120s up top or 2 140s up top. And for radiator compatibility, you can do either a 240, 280, or 360. I did notice that there was some printing for a 160mm fan for compatibility here. What I think you can do is remove that bracket, flip it around, and extend it by another 20mm, but Corsair doesn't talk about this in any of their documentation. And I don't have any 160mm fans to test this. The side panel is removable as well, so you don't need to use this solid side panel. There is an included fan bracket, which you can put in the side there, that will support up to 3 120mm fans or 2 140mm fans, or up to a 360mm radiator on the side. And you have two positions for it, so you can have it more towards the front of the case or closer to the edge of the motherboard. On the bottom of the case, there's also some threaded screw holes to mount some intake fans so you can do up to 2 120mm fans on the top of the PSU shroud. And finally, on the rear of the case, you can either do a 120mm fan or a 140mm fan. The InfiniRail system is only telling a very small part of the Frame 4000 story because it has another trick up its sleeve. Actually, it has a couple more tricks up its sleeve. Check this out. Basically, everything inside the Frame 4000e can be removed as well. Removing the PSU shroud requires you removing 3 screws. There's 1 on the right-hand edge, and then there's 2 on the rear. And then you can simply lift the entire PSU shroud right out of the way, making it easier to manage your cables or just not using that piece at all. I gotta say, the most interesting feature for me personally is the removable motherboard tray. You can remove a couple screws and then you can pull the motherboard tray out, which means you can do everything on your motherboard on the motherboard tray and then just simply put the tray back into the case. Or if you want to change some components later, it's as easy as removing the motherboard tray. You'll notice that this motherboard tray in particular has plenty of holes in it. Why does it have plenty of holes in it? Because the Frame 4000e supports ITX up to ATX motherboards with back connector support as well, which means any of the BTF motherboards, Project Zero motherboards, or Project Stealth motherboards will fit in this case with little to no issue. And it also has cutouts for the MATX back connector boards too. As for air cooler support, the Frame 4000e will support coolers up to a maximum height of 170mm. For GPU support, the Frame 4000e will support GPUs with a maximum length of up to 430mm. It has another trick up its sleeve. The rear bracket for the PCIe slot covers can be completely removed by loosening the captive thumb screws. You can then rotate the bracket to support vertical GPUs. There's also a GPU support bracket that is included. It's got a nifty little screw on the end and you can fasten that or loosen that to change the height and lock that into place. But I did find one issue with this, which I'll talk about a little bit later in the video. As for wiring, we've got the front panel connector for all the lights and the switches. We've got a USB Type-C cable. We've got the front panel audio cable, as well as a USB 3.2 Type-A cable. For the front I/O, there's a power button with a combined power light. There's a combined headphone and microphone jack, 2 USB Type-A ports, and a single USB Type-C port. But I think that's everything you need to know about the Frame 4000e for now. Let's take a look at the thermals with the Corsair Frame 4000e. What you're seeing is the thermals are very, very good. You may have noticed that I did this build a little bit differently to usual. I wanted to use only the 3 included fans and the 3 fans on the liquid cooler. I wanted to see what thermal performance would be like with no additional fans on the bottom or the rear of the case, and turns out the thermals here are excellent. The main reason why I wanted to do this was because of the design of the front panel. It has that kind of Y-shaped pattern, but the mesh itself protrudes, meaning there is more surface area for air to go into the case, and this increases the thermal performance and the airflow. And I think the thermals here are pretty good for a 9950X and an RTX 5080 Vanguard. If you're interested in anything used in this video, there's little cards during the build section of the video, as well as a PC part picker list down below. Okay, what do I think about the Corsair Frame 4000e? I gotta say, this case is very, very, very good. And this is a nice return to form for Corsair. Their last few cases were kind of leaning into the fish tank aesthetic a little bit too much and kind of forgetting what made Corsair a great case manufacturer. And the 4000e, well, the Frame 4000e, really shows what they're capable of when they think outside of the box. The fact that you can change offsets for fans and radiator compatibility, as well as install so many fans in this case, it's not funny, is incredible. The fact that the whole PSU shroud is completely removable and you can remove the motherboard tray really makes building in the Frame 4000e almost far superior than any other case that's come out in the last little while. While there are some other vendors out there like Cooler Master and Johnsbow who do have frame cases as well, this is the first one that we've had in our hands, and it's a very nice and frankly pretty impressive idea for an internal layout system for a case. I like that you can essentially strip everything out and build it any way you like. This is going to change the game, and I've got to say, after seeing this and knowing what's cooking with a bunch of other case vendors, that we're going to see a lot of these type of frame cases this year, and this is going to be the case trend for 2025. And if I'm being honest, this will be a better trend than every other fish tank case that has come before. I really, really like this idea. If I've got one complaint about the Frame 4000e, it's the included GPU support bracket. Now, while this is a very good idea, it's not compatible with every single GPU. What I mean by that is, with the 5080 Vanguard, what you'll notice is the Vanguard's fans protrude below the bottom of the shroud, and when you use this support bracket, it pushes into the fan and then the fan doesn't work. The way I worked around this was, I had a little rubber foot that I put on the bracket and I put it towards the edge of the case, and it kind of gave it a bit more of height to sit on the edge of the shroud and then supported the GPU nicely. I think this is a tiny bit of an oversight, and I have a feeling this is not going to be the only GPU that is impacted by this. I will maybe come back to this with a video showing how this works, but for now, just keep that in mind. And you don't have to use this as the support bracket for your GPU. If you've already got one, you can use that with little to no issues because of the design of the case. It's very open and very modular and will allow you to do many, many different things. Back to the Frame 4000e, building in this case is awesome. It is so freaking easy to build in. And take a look at the cable management here. I didn't try, I used all of the cable management and all of the Velcro tie downs that come in the case to do this cable management. And although there's not heaps of hardware in here, it was a piece of cake and it's super duper clean. I spent about maybe 2 minutes on doing cable management like this. The build quality is really, really nice too. This is classic Corsair, not like the 6500X, which we won't mention. I really, really like this concept. I really like the design. I like the idea. I like the size. The front panel design is very unique, and overall, It is just a fantastically well executed case. So good work, Corsair. This is really what you guys should be working on going forward. This type of case is excellent, and it's not going to cost you $1 million, because if you're interested in the Corsair Frame 4000E, it starts at around about $95 US. The version we have here is $110 US because it's got the included fans as well. But if you wanted it without fans, $95 US. I think that is a great price for a case that is so versatile. But it's not just the versatility that makes this case awesome. It's the fact that you can almost build this in any order you like. It is a fantastic case. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I really, really like this case. Like, it's cool to see something that's like this, and I'm a bit excited about it. I have lots of cool little ideas of stuff I want to do with this case now. I'm just returning the look that you're giving me.